Hello everybody. We're going to check if everything is alright. Quality seems pretty good. I'm going to lower this a little bit just to say that have a little more visibility of but it's pretty good. Pretty good. Okay, so I think we can start. Pretty good. Image seems perfect. And things seem to be going quite well. Okay, let's check out if everything's alright here. Here. And here. That's pretty good. Okay, well, we're going to start our little show. Hey everyone, welcome to this Wideband Hangout. So what's the Wideband Hangout? Typically, this is the Friday where we talk about VHF, UHF signals. I hated the camera's crooked. Okay, so this is where we talk about VHF, UHF, scanner radio, police scanners as some call them. But we also talk about shortwave and also talk about medium wave and long wave. And actually today we're going to do all of that. Because today we're going to talk about propagation of the different frequency ranges of the spectrum. And the different characteristics of the propagation, why you could hear such and such signal in such and such conditions. And I think it's going to be interesting. And I think it's always something that we need to remind not just, the newcomer to the hobby, but pretty much everybody that wants to listen seriously to any frequency range. Understanding how the propagation works kind of helps in knowing, can I receive that signal from that part of the world or not? That's going to be kind of interesting today to talk about this. Hello in the chat room to Ray Kelly. We have Hi Hutchinson from the UK. Calvin, welcome aboard. Le Meilleur Chemin from Quebec. Bienvenue. Why is it that the phone has to ring every time I, and I bet you, that's Microsoft's camera. It's been 2 or 3 times this week. Hello there, your computer's sending out viruses. Yeah, right. Nick Amendot from Romania. Nice to have you on board. Bobby Burgess. Hello there. First time. Yeah, you're usually in the Windows show. So thanks, welcome, and hope you enjoy today's show. Hello, Richard Cook. Nice to have you here. DX from Netherlands. Nice to have you here. DX Place from Belgium. Pretty cool. We have PLF on the other chat, the IRC chat. Hope that everybody is enjoying. Sorry, I've got the cat came over and cat hair everywhere. It's kind of annoying. So this show is every 2 weeks on Friday. So every Friday we have a show, typically. But this one alternates with tuning the band. So one Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2000 UT. We talk about scanner radio, all the frequency ranges. It's anything about radio, basically. And the other Friday, we tuned the shortwave bands together. Last week, we had a good run, tuning the bands for more than 5 hours. I think that was good. It was the record, 5 hours and something last week. Don't expect to have 5 hours of this show today. But welcome aboard, and my beer today is Boreal with the polar bear in the temperature that's right now minus 18 Celsius. That's 0 Fahrenheit. So we're in a deep freeze, and we're going to have a snowstorm this weekend, about 15 centimeters of snow. That's what, about 6-7 inches. Plus, we're going to have maybe freezing rain, which is never good for antennas, and but it's a good time for scanner radio because when there's bad weather, snowstorms, anything, pick up the radio, the scanner radio, tune in the frequency ranges, and listen to the communications. It's always interesting. So you got it's the a way to make a good time of the bad weather, and hopefully, stay out of danger. So yes, Paul is the DX the cat is all right. He was here 2 seconds ago, just before I started the show. He said he came to say hi before he went back to sleep. So yep, PLF DX the cat is quite all right. Hello there, John Ritson. Good evening. Hart Butcher, bonjour. Dr. Zonko from England. Hey there, the Vaults. Always nice to have you here. And of course, we're going to talk about propagation. I think it's going to be fun. Hello there, William Helms from the email. And he's actually experimenting with his Pro 94 scanner and a 30.5-inch whip, car whip. And it says it's shorter than 72-inch and picks up everything. So that's cool. That's the fun part of radio, experimenting with pretty much anything, and just to see the results. I think that's cool, and that's the fun, the basic fun of radio, just trying everything out and see what happens. That's for sure. One of the things I wanted to say is tomorrow is, of course, our shortwave show. So tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern, 20 UTC, same hours, same time as today. There's another show. Tomorrow is shortwave only. We're going to talk about special things there are to listen to in the holiday season, Christmas, New Year's on shortwave. Some stations have special programming. There's amateur radio stations that have special event stations for the holidays, including, talking to Santa. Yes, it's possible. You can talk to Santa through radio. And so all of that. So we're going to talk about that tomorrow. It's going to be the topic for tomorrow's show. Different little things. If you guys know about anything special for the holiday season, you can email me, officialshortwaveradio@gmail.com. Tell me, oh, I know about this or that event for Christmas, so we'll add that to all the things that I have to talk about. And you'll see that the Christmas and New Year's time is kind of fun. There's a lot of little things to listen to, and it's kind of cool to join in. And often it's a time where we, gather together as a family, but it's also a time for a lot of people to take a little bit of vacation, take some time off, maybe have a little more time for some radio. So that's pretty cool also. And it's a great time of the year. I love Christmas. Not everybody. I see these, remarks, but I'm a little boy inside. Christmas for me is fantastic. And we will have a special show for the holiday season, and that will be Wednesday, December 28th. So Wednesday, December 28th, mark your calendars at 2100. It's going to be 1 hour later, 2100 UTC on December the 28th. It's going to be the special holiday shortwave show. And if you guys have been good, maybe Santa is going to be here. Who knows? But we'll see. It depends if you guys have been good or not. Guys and girls, of course. What else do we have? Hello there, Mad Radio DXer. Grigou, nice to have you nice to have you in the chat. Yeah, well, DX knows that it's really cold. Last night he wanted to go out. It was minus 23 around 11 p.m. last night. And that's about 5 or 6 below, if not more, maybe 10 below Fahrenheit. And he really wanted to go out, so I just opened the door. And he got the cold air rush in, and he just turned back and said, whoa, I'm not going out there. So he kind of knows that he doesn't want to go there. But, he has to check it out by himself. If I don't open the door, he's going to, walk around and just, stay put for sure. What else do we have here? Oh, Nick Amendot says last week on December 8th, he was able to get the International Space Station signal with his small RTL SDR dongle, but he couldn't convert signal to SSTV because it was weak and short but it was so happy, unique, memorable experience. So that's always cool. You know, the first time you hear the International Space Station, the first time you hear an amateur radio satellite, or the first time you hear a satellite in general, it's always cool. And it shows to this shows everybody that with just an RTL SDR dongle, it's sensitive enough if you have just the right antenna to receive the International Space Station. What did you use as an antenna, Nick Amendo, just by curiosity with the RTL dongle to get it? Did you get just with the supplied antenna or use something else? And what else do we have here? John Risson says, I'm spreading myself thin tonight as I have a friend calling me on Skype, but I like the show. This show a little better. Yeah, cool, no problem. It's always, you know, we have lives. We can't always be, you know. Oh, supplied antenna. So it shows the little supplied antenna was good enough to get the signal from the International Space Station. Well, that's, you know, shows how cool. But, you know, it's always cool. That's something fun. Yeah, well, it could. Yeah, that's what I thought, Richard, the 23rd, because next week, our last show before Christmas will be the tuning the bands. So, of course, we will tune the bands on Friday next week. It's going to be just 24 hours before Christmas Eve. So it's going to be pretty cool. And, of course, tomorrow we're having our shortwave show. That means technically our shortwave show should be the next time on the 31st of January. It's, of course, New Year's Eve. So I won't be home. I'll be at my brother's home for New Year's Eve. So there won't be any show on Saturday the 31st. I'll push that the next Saturday, which will be Saturday the 7th, I believe, January 7th, 2017. Incredible when you think about it. I just can't, you know, get around the fact that we're already getting to 2017, that we're now officially, it's been more than 2 years now that I've been doing live shows, basically. So kind of cool, you know. This is fun and pretty cool to do these shows. So yep, tuning the bands next week. So pretty cool. And Richard's birthday is on January 7th. Well, we'll be live to sing you happy birthday, Richard. And that's going to be cool. X chat, let me just check it out here. Hey, Jerry. 5 inch of snow there, and big storm tonight, another 6 inch. We're having our really big storm this weekend. It's really cold right now, and just to give you guys an idea of the swings of temperatures here in Montreal. Last night we had minus 25. This morning around 6 a.m. was minus 25 in Montreal. That's about 10 to 12, 13, 10 to 15 Fahrenheit below zero. So minus 25 Celsius this morning at 7 a.m. Right now it's what, minus 18, almost minus 19. So we're going to go from minus 25 this morning to something like 0 degrees. That's 32 Fahrenheit on Sunday. And we're going to have about 10 to 15, they say at least 15 centimeters of snow plus freezing rain. So that's 6 inches of snow plus freezing rain. And on Sunday night, it's going to go back to minus 25. And on Monday, it's going to be like minus 20 during the day. So mood swings of Mother Nature, I can tell you that. This is Montreal. You know, in Montreal, it can be minus 25, and 2 days later, it could rain and be plus 10. It's just amazing what we can have as temperatures. Hello there, SG1 East Nebraska. Nice to have you on board. It says 22 Fahrenheit, snow showers shortly. It's still sunny outside here. So, you know, it's winter. And at least one of the things that I like is that we're going to have a white Christmas. You know, last year at Christmas, it was like 18 degrees, almost 70 Fahrenheit. Last year, I remember at 2 in the morning, me and some of my friends that were here for the Christmas party, we were outside in the backyard, no snow, wearing just, you know, a light jacket. I was in my Santa Claus uniform, and it was warm enough to just be outside like that. And we were looking at the stars in the sky, and so that's really, really amazing. And basically, it was the first time I've ever experienced such a warm Christmas last year. And 3 days later, we had a big snowstorm. So it shows you, it was 17, almost 20 degrees Celsius at Christmas last year. And 3 days later, we had 20 centimeters of snow, and it was minus 15. That's Montreal for you. The PLF says, how do you handle these high gaps in temperatures? You know, we're used to it. It's kind of normal for us. So there's like nothing, nothing special. It's just, we make the best of it. I went outside to go to get some beer, and that's the only thing I did today outside. And with the winds, it was cold. I got to tell you that. I went to get the beer. I got back here and said, hey, I'm not leaving this home for the rest of the day. It's too cold. And it shows because here we have electric heating, and when it's cold like that, electric heating here is working 24 hours a day. It never stops, just to maintain the temperature inside at 22, 23 degrees. This apartment where I live is not particularly good at, keeping the warm inside. So but it's Montreal, and we go out and we do stuff at minus 20. It's like it's normal. It's life for us. It's life as usual, basically. So yeah, minus 25. Minus 25. Richard says it's 11 over there in the UK. That's kind of warm. So I would have changed that to 11. My minus 19 with 11. So John Young says it's 7 below right now in Montana, and it's supposed to get cold tonight. So minus 4 in Romania. So not bad. Cool to see the temperature around the world where everybody's living. As G1 says, HD video looks good today. Yeah, we've had some problems sometimes with the HD, but I think it has to do with YouTube. It's the only thing I can see. There was one thing that I did think about. Some people, I remember seeing someone that attacked IP addresses by denial of service attacks, and I was wondering if some people that they're not really happy of my live shows could maybe do something like that. Who knows? That could make my live stream really go bad. But it doesn't show here. I have an indication of the live stream here all the time. I have a green bar, and I have constantly the amount of megabits per second going upstream. And sometimes when people say, hey, it's freezing up or it doesn't look good, sometimes I see that the bar gets yellow, and I see that the upstream is at like 2.5, 2.5 megabits per second instead of 4. Now I know that my upstream is not good. Usually what I do, I stop the stream for 10 seconds and I start it again, and it comes back to normal. But the past few times that people were saying, hey, it freezes, I was looking at my information here and everything seemed to be right. And also, if there are some major problems at my end, it shows when the recorded show is there. Sometimes I look at the recorded show. If there was a problem with the upstream, the recorded show will have some gaps where sometimes it jumps from, I could see, oh, at that point there was a problem. But the recorded shows seem to be clean, which kind of tells me that the upstream up to YouTube is good. It's from YouTube to all of you people that there seems to be a slight problem, from what I'm seeing here anyways. So, hey there, MDK2. So, says Montreal sounds like Denver. 60 Fahrenheit, 15 Celsius yesterday, 0 Fahrenheit tonight, and for a high tomorrow. So yeah, that looks like our kind of weather, for sure. So it's winter for you. PLF says, what I remember, I think the lowest temperature I have to handle is near minus 10 Celsius or minus 15 Celsius, but never minus 25. So PLF says it's 4 degrees Celsius in France. So yeah, that's not too bad. Here, the lowest I've ever seen in my whole life that I can remember. I remember a minus 35, minus 36 when many years ago, maybe 15, 20 years ago, we had a minus 36 or something like that. I remember when I was young, we went to, when I was about 12 or 13, and I remember because the funniest story, well, it wasn't funny for my dad, but I was 13 years old in 1981, in 1980. So I was 11 years old, even younger. In 1980, we went to a Christmas Eve party at some friends that lived just south shore of Montreal. And I remember my dad was happy to show off his brand new car, a Ford. I don't remember what model of the Ford it was, but it was a white Ford car from 1980. And it was brand new. My dad had the car like a week before. And we went there. And during the night, the temperature dropped to minus 32, around somewhere like minus 32. And when we got out at 4 in the morning, the car wouldn't start. And my dad was mad as hell because his brand new car couldn't start at minus 32. And everybody was joking. And my dad is the kind of guy that doesn't like jokes. At least not jokes about him. So when you tell jokes, don't tell jokes that my dad is going to be involved, because he gets mad easily. And I remember everybody was making jokes at my dad about his new car, and he got mad, but mad as hell. And man, it was just, today I think about it, it was just funny, you know. And so we had to call in we slept at our friends, at my parents' friends back then. And I remember the next day around 1 in the afternoon, there's a towing came and boosted my father's car, and it ran. The problem was just that the battery was too low. So that's pretty much funny little story of when I was young. And so, you know, minus 30 is something that we might hit from time to time. And but I don't wish that, because here where I live, if the temperature drops below minus 25, if it goes at minus 27, 28, I have to leave the water open a little bit during the night, because the pipes will freeze. The way the pipes are going through the house in the back, the pipes will freeze if I don't leave a little bit of water flowing through there. Jerry says, lowest it ever went in southern Ontario that he can remember is minus 47 Fahrenheit. Wow, that's really cold. That's really, really, really cold. So, Man Radio DX here says, tell the DOS attackers to get a life. Yeah, you know, everything's possible. I've been having a series of threatening emails in Russian, and of somebody saying that he's going to take down my radio channels, and that I am a creep and a liar and whatever. So I just forwarded them to Google's system where, you know, when you get hate mail, you can actually report the hate mail to Google. And I sent it to Google and said, look, this guy is really threatening me. Because, you know, it's in Russian, so I can't read. So I take Google Translate and I look at the message. And Google Translate translates all crooked, but the major parts of the messages is that, you know, I'm a liar and I'm going to take down the channel and so on and blah, 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 blah. Anyways, let's not give these people more time than they deserve. So, oh yeah, exactly. Like Grigou says, you need to add wind chill factor. with the wind chill factor, it's something. Today they were saying that like this evening we're going to have about 30 km/h winds. It's going to be minus 20 or around minus 20 tonight. And with the winds, it's a wind chill of minus 36 that they said is going to be minus 36 to minus 40. That's the yeah, driver films. Ford found on the roadside. We have one in French here, which is about it the same, you know, thing. It just means a bad car. So that was the major joke that everybody was saying. Oh, Ford. Yeah, it was like found on the roadside dead. It was the same thing. And boy, my dad was so mad. I still remember how mad he was. So I like that one. BMW, bring my wallet. So MDK2 says, when I was 20, we had a cold snap in the apartment last heat. Got to minus 25 Fahrenheit, which is somewhere around minus 31 Fahrenheit. Minus 25 Fahrenheit was minus 31 Celsius or minus, you know, something like that. Got down to 44 Fahrenheit. Indoors. Wow, that's cold. And yeah, William, it was something. It was something. In French, it was ferraille, ordure, rebut, déchet, which means basically it's a pile of trash. Let's just say it like that. Yeah, that's what I thought. MDK2 minus 31. So, you know, but still, you know, it's one of the funny thing is that I remember having a cool cool Christmas gift back then, and I remember that even though with all of that and my dad being mad as hell, being stuck at somebody else's home, funny thing for me at 11 years old, it's kind of one of the nice Christmas souvenirs of when I was young. You know, little things like that. I remember one, I think the year after or 2 years after, I had in 82, winter of 82, 83, because I had my DX100. I remember Christmas Day, we had an ice storm, and we had like 20 centimeters of snow plus an ice storm, a little bit like we're going to have this weekend. And the landlord where we would live when I was young were an old Italian couple. They were like 75 years old at that time. And I was, you know, 12, 13. And I remember I was the kind of guy that, you know, liked to, I've always been somebody that likes to move around a lot. So when there was snow outside, I was always the first one to take the shovel and just, you know, shovel everything, because I actually found it fun to shovel, which is very different from most people. And so, you know, I would shovel my father's car. I would shovel, you know, around the home. And I remember I shoveled, but there was a thick layer of ice. And so I couldn't shovel. And I found an ice pick in the backyard. And I ice picked all of the driveway and everything. And when I got back in, I still remember the landlord, the old Italian couple, they opened the door. They gave me a huge bag of cookies. And on the bag of cookies, they had taped a $20 bill. And you know what? When you're 13 years old and you get a $20 bill in 1982 or 83, man, you are happy because you get a lot of stuff with a $20 bill back then. And I remember I got in, and then they knocked at the door, and they were so happy that, you know, I had done all of that. They even gave some homemade wine to my parents that same evening. It was kind of, you know, it's a Christmas Day souvenir that I find fun. You know, it was Christmas. I just, you know, just had a lot of fun doing that. So, Driver Film says, minus 12 Celsius. Not fun scraping the ice out of the car that morning. Yeah, imagine at minus 25. Jerry says, remember at my dad's cottage we went for Christmas on year. one year. It got so cold we had frost on the nail heads inside the cottage. It was heated with a wood stove. My dad had to wake up in the middle of the night to keep the stove going. Oh, I remember things like that. My dad, when he had his cabin up in the woods, I can tell you one thing: in the cabin in the woods, that didn't have we didn't have electricity. We had a wood stove, and I remember one Christmas holiday we spent 4 days there, and which I had found absolutely fun. But I remember we were, the first one to get up in the morning had to start the wood stove, and we would all sleep. And I remember, sometime waking up at like 5 a.m. and it's like, okay, I gotta pee, and it's like 0 degrees inside the shack. And okay, if I get up and I have to pee, that means I have to get up and start the wood stove, half naked in 0 degree weather. And sometimes I would hold it in. I was like, okay, I'm gonna hold it in. I think I can hold it in. I'm gonna hold it in until morning. I don't want to start a wood stove. It always takes a long time to start up and everything, and you're just like you're in your undies, and it's like, man, too cold. Souvenirs of our young times. Oh man. John Young says, I have 2 Hudson Bay blankets on my bed right now. Go Canada. Yeah. Oh, man. Mad Radio DXer says, I used to have Fords, never broke down, but always problems with electrics. Oh, man. That is something. Yep, a lot of money back then. $20 in 1982. Really something. Oh man, yeah, Girigu remembers the 1998 hydro failure with the ice storm. That was something. The ice storm of 1998 here, just amazing. It's the biggest natural disaster of Quebec. And until there were the huge fires this summer, or was this year, the fires up north in the forest fires, where they had to evacuate tons and tons of people up north, where there's all these companies that extract petrol from the sands. The Quebec ice storm, or the southern Quebec, it was part of southern Ontario, southern Quebec. I think New Brunswick was affected, and also the northern U.S. states of Maine and New York were affected also. That was the biggest natural disaster Canada have ever had before this summer's forest fires up in Canada. That was something. I can tell you the ice storm. I've never had seen that before, and I will probably never see it again. Let's hope so, because that was something. I mean, a branch of tree that's this big was suddenly this big, and the trees were like all hanging down because of the snow was too heavy. That the ice would make it too heavy, and branches would break everywhere. All the streets where there were a lot of trees, they had actually told people, don't go there. You're going to be hit by a falling branch. It was one of the major disasters. That was something. I'll never forget. Of all the, I've 2 weather events that I've gone through here that I will never forget. The first one was when I was in college in 1987. There was, in July of 1987, a series of thunderstorms that came through Montreal. First, I had never seen a thunderstorm so powerful. And not just one, 3 in a row. Like, it would get really, really crazy heavy winds and everything. It would just barely stop a little bit, and it'd start over again. And that lasted for like an hour. And in 1 hour, Montreal received something like 120 millimeters of rain. That's like you know, about what 120 millimeters of rain is about 5, 6. What, 612, what, I'm trying to remember. It's about 5 to 6 inches, something like that, in 1 hour. And I mean, the street where I lived back then was a lake. We couldn't see, the cars were buried halfway with the water. It was like a huge lake had invaded the neighborhood. It was something. I mean, I never had seen something like that. And the second thing, the major event that I will never forget is that ice storm of 1998. And I think probably for everybody that lived the ice storm in 1988, it's something that they will never forget until they die. I mean, that was so impressive. I've never seen something that was so impressive. All that ice. I remember where I was working back then. That was the last job before I started doing my tech jobs and be self-employed. And where I was working back then, I remember at day 3 of the ice storm, because the ice storms lasted like a week. It was non-stop. It was raining ice. It was like always raining, a freezing rain for a full week. It was non-stop. It would start, stop. At some point, there was ice everywhere, and everybody was going crazy. And where I worked back then, at the 3rd day, they said, look, situation is really bad. Why don't you guys stay home? Help your family, help yourselves. And basically, we didn't work for 4 days. And they were really nice, because when we got back to work the next week, it was payday. They had paid the 4 days that we were off. They said, look, force of nature, and we're happy to give you guys all your paychecks. It's okay. They were really good people where I used to live, where I used to work back then. And but boy, that was something, I can tell you. I never forget that. William says where he's at work, he saw a tree get struck just yards from him. Yeah, you never know. Le Meilleur Chemin says 1998, my grandmother was traveling from France to visit relatives in Vancouver. She was stuck at the Montreal airport for 3 days. Of course, nothing was moving. It was just amazing. Amazing storm, I can tell you that. Amazing storm. So Jerry says where he was, they had a well and they had to pump the water and bucket it up to the cottage. It was used to flush the toilet and drinks. We would take the snow. I remember I would take snow and put it on the stove so that it melts and give us water, because we didn't have a well. That was something. Was ice water out of the well. Yeah, of course. So you are watching, even if it doesn't show up, a radio show. Sorry, guys. We are live from Montreal, Quebec, Canada, and we will talk about propagation now, as we will start to talk about radio, as we go here and there from, Well, you know what? What happens is the vault saying, strange you rely on electric heating after 98. Really would want to keep wood stove or something similar as a backup. Well, it did show that that electricity could, there could be something bad enough to make the electricity go away. But the problem here is before 1998, we never had something bad enough that people were off the grid for a long time. They say that the ice storm of 98 is like something that happens every 500 years, if not every 1,000 years. Apparently, it's a very rare event. Since then, the Hydro-Quebec power lines, they have implemented a series of recommendations, and they have, for example, all the electric poles and everything that's used to bring the wires are now made in a way that it can actually withstand even more ice than before. And there's also new electrical lines that are coming to Montreal, for example. Back then we had two major lines coming to Montreal. And here our electricity comes from really far north, okay? Comes from James Bay, which is part of Hudson's Bay, very far at the north. And also into the Labrador side. So our electricity here comes from really, really far. Typically 1,000 kilometers away from Montreal. So basically, they actually added transport lines and new ways of directing electricity towards Montreal to lower the possibility of ever having a blackout because of weather or everything. And in the city, the other thing that's happening here is, like in the city, in Montreal, you're not allowed to have a wood stove. It's totally banned. In the city of Montreal, there are even new regulations. Before, some people had fireplace. They had a fireplace in their home, stuff like that. New houses, new condos today, you are not allowed to have a fireplace. You're not allowed to have a wood stove in the city of Montreal. It's impossible. That's something that's banned because of the pollution that it will give out. And, you know, in the city of Montreal, I don't think we really need to have wood stoves or anything like that. But I do agree that once you're outside of this big city of Montreal, when you start getting far away from the big cities, I do believe that, yes, having some kind of possible heat source in case the electricity goes, I think it's something that's important, for sure. So, yeah. You know, here, it is too, Mad Radio DX, or a fireplace, you know, a house that still has a fireplace, because the idea behind it is, if you have a fireplace, okay, you can keep it, and you can use it. It's just that the new house and the new condos, you're not allowed to have one inside. And so, yes, of course, if you're selling a house that has a fireplace, it is a major seller, because everybody likes that and wants one. So that's for sure. So yeah, yeah, we were taking melting snow, and yes, as long as it's not yellow, it's gonna be fine. Yeah, no, over there it wasn't rarely yellow. I can tell you that. So no fireplaces at all. Not even a gas fireplace, Jerry. It's not something that's permitted anymore. Apparently, it affects too much in the city. It's pretty new. It's a new law that came into effect maybe 5 years ago. Before 5 years ago, you could still have a new house with a fireplace, but it's because in the last 20 years, the quality of air of the city of Montreal has been going down. And we have more and more days in the wintertime and in the summertime where the air is bad. And because of that, they took really drastic measures to make sure that the air outside is the best possible. The problem is, there's still a lot of those. So, you know, if you go outside when the air is in bad quality, you can actually smell burnt wood. You see that some people are using their fireplace, you know. And some people use their fireplace when it's cold like this. My next door neighbor, it's a little house right next to me, and she's an old lady. She's like 85 years old, and she lives alone, and she actually has a fireplace in her own home. And from time to time, I go outside and I smell. I see the smoke coming out of the chimney, and I can smell that, you know, she's using the fireplace to heat up a little bit also. So pretty, yeah, you know, laws here in Montreal. You know, you guys want to have a good one? There's a new law now that's going to be kind of crazy for me. To give you an idea of how stupid sometimes some laws are here, there's a new law that states that my cat needs to stay on my home. If he goes to the neighbor's yard, it's a $700 fine. And this is a brand new law that started a month ago. And everybody's going crazy and saying, what? Now, if my cat goes to the neighbor's yard and the neighbor complains, I will have a $700 fine because my cat went to the neighbor's yard. So you want to talk about really stupid laws? That's a great example of stupid laws. I can tell you that. Okay. Let's see. We're going to start at the bottom of the spectrum and talk about some of the. By the way, Richard Cook is receiving Voice of Korea on 6170, so not too bad. So yes and no. You know, it's not even that. It's like it's really crazy. You know, you can't expect a cat to stay in your yard. It doesn't work like that. And I can tell you that. It's really something. No, here, the only complaint I had about the cat is not that he's pooping everywhere. It's just that he went. My neighbor let his door open, and the cat looked and said, hey, and opened the door. And he went inside. And he got crazy. It's like, what's your cat doing inside my home? Blah, 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 blah. So I told him, scare him. Just scare him. If you scare the cat, he's not going to go back. That's it. You know, it's not even about pooping or anything. So, yeah, almost an hour, and we're not talking about radio yet. We should have a new show. Maybe we should have a new a talk about everything show. So, hey, Richard Pattison says we live on farmyard here, and the landlord said that we must have a smoke filter at his house fire when burning wood. New rules here in Germany. Yeah. Everywhere, new rules. Grigou says his cat Lupin fully agrees. Total stupid law. I mean, you know, I agree with, you know, laws about dogs, dangerous dogs. That's fine. That's okay. But, you know, I don't know. Stupid laws. Okay. So at the basement of the spectrum, if we go from about 0 to 100 kilohertz, which is a very low frequency range, it is below long wave, so this is very, very low in frequency. And there's different types of signals there. You know, for example, there one of the signals in North America a lot of people knows about is the WWVB time signal at 60 kilohertz. That you know, the clocks, atomic clocks, will synchronize to. And there's different things. And you know, some people sometimes tell me, why do they use 60 kilohertz to synchronize our clocks? You know, and one of the things is that the ground wave signal of a very low frequency below 100 kilohertz really is kind of follows really Earth's curvature. So if you have a powerful signal there, the ground wave really follows Earth's curvature. So it will actually follow. So like for example, from Colorado to here, you know, the Earth has a slight bump. It's not flat and it's round. So we're not in line of sight. But because of that frequency range and the fact that some of the propagation characteristics of these frequency range is that it follows curvature of the Earth, well, it works, and it can, synchronize our clocks even if we're far away. Now, the low frequency ranges are also interesting because that's one part where it's being used a lot by submarines. Submarines typically use a lot around the 10 kilohertz range, 10, 14, 16 kilohertz. And the reason why is because these low frequencies also have a very interesting and unique property that most of the other waves don't have. It can penetrate water to a very deep level. Typically, radio signals are stopped by water quite rapidly. So VHF, UHF signals will stop at a very, very shallow depth. It will not go, 10 kilometers down. But very low frequencies, VLF, typically below 100 kilohertz, can go to very, very low. So, a submarine that would be 5,000 meters down would still communicate with such frequency ranges. So that's one of the first things. There is an enhancement of the frequency propagation of these frequencies below at night. So at night it's usually better than in the daytime, but there's not that much of a difference. There is one, and often they tell you when you want to synchronize your clock, for example, well, synchronize it in the middle of the night near a window and so on. The middle of the night effect is not that it enhances that much at that low frequency range. It's also mostly because man-made electrical noises are at the lowest, at 3 or 4 in the morning, because everybody's sleeping. So that's more important because 60 kilohertz signal typically will propagate even in midday up to my area, for example. But man-made noise is much more pronounced, so it has an effect. It has really a lot of effect into the propagation. So Mandrader the Exer says, where are you going to do on the couch hangout, Joe? You said some time ago. Yeah, I'm going to do on the couch starting January 12th with my nephew. It's going to be a tech show. It's going to be, tech news, talking about a tech news event of the week. And my nephew is good with the video game side, so he'll have the video game or the gaming news of the week. And he's good about consoles and stuff like that. And so we'll have all sorts of things like that. But, sometimes who knows? Maybe I should just start up a specific channel just for whatever chit chat and do live shows, talk about everything and anything. That would be good. So low frequency ranges are propagating following the curvature of the Earth, pretty much. Then we get to the long wave frequencies. Long wave frequencies start sharing a little bit of properties from the medium wave, and of course retains part of the low spectrum, the VLF frequency propagation characteristics. So it depends on where you're tuning. So from 100 kilohertz to about 500 kilohertz, you will have the long wave band. At the bottom of the long wave band, you'll typically have more of a propagation characteristic that looks like very low frequency, that I've just talked about. At the high end, 500 kilohertz, you will get more of some characteristics of medium wave, meaning that there's a little bit of propagation going on at night because the signals can actually bounce on the D layer, the ionosphere, like AM signals that we'll get to in a few seconds. And Christmas music from WTWW on 9930 right now, apparently. S9 plus 20 in East Nebraska. And a few other people has been mentioning it. We have what? We have... we have... I think somebody else said, yeah, John Young says into Montana, Christmas music, 9930. Yeah, at night, 5085, by the way, Christmas music also. So if you guys want to have some Christmas music tonight, just tune around 5085 in the evening. I've been enjoying that a little bit lately. Man Radio DXer says I can get 2 time stations on VLF in the UK. Time signal at 60 kilohertz and 1 in Germany from 77 kilohertz. So cool. Online math and physics tutor. People may be asleep late at night, but their wall wart chargers are still plugged in and generating plenty of RFI. Yeah, there are some default, there's like, you know, let's call it a background noise. Yes, there is still some noise. Yet, a lot of devices that we use will generate noise while we're using them, but not when we're turning it off. So the overall noise at 3 in the morning is still lower than the overall noise at 8 p.m. or at 4 in the afternoon, because there's more stuff happening. There's more electronics working. At night, it's the wall warts, the cheap, you can say the cheap switching power supplies, stuff like that. But there is still overall less noise at 3 or 4 in the morning. And here I can actually, you know, if I'd wake up, I could actually do a video and show that at 8 p.m. in the evening on my shortwave frequency ranges, there's a lot more noise than at 4 a.m. where you see that the noise has been much lower. There's less things that are working around. So, yeah, well, you know, not just plasma TVs. There's the plasma TVs. There's a lot of things. Computers that are running that aren't running. You know, some computers will generate a lot of noise when they're running, but will not generate noise once they're down. An example of that is my laptops. When my laptops are running, I will see an increase in noise level on a portable receiver. But when my laptops are shut down, my noise level goes down. Because the power adapter, not all of them, but a lot of the power adapters actually emit almost no noise when the computer's not working. So there's a lot of devices that actually do this. So there is more noise when people are active than there is when people are not. So Man Radio DXer says there's radio teletype for maritime weather and 147 kilohertz also strong from Germany. So pretty cool. The Longwave band, part of it is, of course, once again, ground wave follows curvature of the Earth to a less extent than the very low frequency range, but still will give you even pretty good distances, even in midday time, following the same kind of aspect as the very low frequencies. You know, daytime human activity increases the overall noise, stuff like that. Of course, there's also one aspect you got to check is winter versus summer. More noise in the summertime very often in the very low frequencies because thunderstorms. Thunderstorms, you know, emit noise on a very large spectrum, including very low frequencies and low, long wave. So wintertime will often be more quiet also because of that. And depending on the range where you are at in the long wave, you might expect as you go higher in the 300, 400 kilohertz region, that at night you might actually have even a little bit of propagation that comes from the D layer of the ionosphere, where the signal will actually bounce back and giving you pretty far distance of reception. Hello there, Tora. Nice to have you on board in the chat, as usual. And yeah, online math and physics tutor says listening to non-directional beacons on Longwave can be fun because the Morse code is very slow. And you know, it's a nice way of learning your Morse code also, because if you have low enough noise that you can tune in some non-directional beacons, it brushes up a little bit your Morse code because you got to understand what's the letters being sent out for their ID. So that's something. You know, I used to DX Longwave a lot when I was younger. It's impossible now. I've got way too much noise to do that. But I really used to DX so much in the non-directional beacons when I was young. I remember making a list, and I probably have that somewhere here. I need to find the books. I would note down, I would like DX every 2 or 3 weeks. I would, one evening just go into Longwave and try to DX as many non-directional beacons as possible. And I would keep a log of that, and I heard a lot of American non-directional beacons from far away. I heard Bermuda at some point. It was pretty cool. Online Matt, I've never received any broadcasts on the Longwave bands from Europe, or like you're talking here about Iceland on 189 kilohertz. Maybe if I would have had better equipment when I was younger, I would have received those. But today, my noise level will prevent me to receive anything, unfortunately. So, Man Radio DX just says, I just use multi-PSK to understand Morse code. Well, that's one way of doing it. So, it's part of the... Yep, there's radio broadcasts in the long-wave area from Europe, and so that's something that you can try. And a lot of them are very, very high power too. So in the East Coast, people that are close to the ocean, on the East Coast of North America, people that are close to the ocean a lot of them have DX'd long-wave stations from Europe. But here, more inland, it's kind of difficult, and I'd have to be at a very, very remote location with a very long, some kind of like a beverage antenna, and maybe at a remote location where there's far away of everybody's, their interference, basically. John Young says U.S. Navy VLF transmitter in Cutler, Maine sends messages to missile submarines on a frequency of 24 kilohertz. Yep, because that frequency range is perfect to send signals through the water to submarines at even when they are very, very deep. So it's pretty cool. Another frequency range we're going to talk about is the medium wave band. Where our AM stations are. This one is an interesting band because a lot of people noticed, at some point when they're tuning the radio that, at night I'm receiving signals from really far away. In the daytime, it's pretty local stuff. And medium wave is the first real frequency range that starts to get the effect of propagating a signal through skywave from the ionosphere. So, in general, what's happening is that in the daytime, first of all, in the daytime, what you get and what you will receive from a medium wave station in the AM band is a ground wave signal. Follows Earth to a certain extent, a little bit of the curvature of the Earth. So it's sometimes possible to receive an AM station that will be 200, 250 kilometers away if their broadcasting or the pattern of broadcasting is good and pretty much in your direction. That is one of the things that's cool about AM broadcasts. So it goes, it can go far. It sometimes goes farther away than an FM signal, but it cannot propagate via skywave in the daytime because the ionosphere creates different layers due to the sun. And the D layer, the bottom part of the ionosphere, actually absorbs the medium wave signals. So in the daytime, you don't hear stations from far away via skywave because the skywaves are absorbed in that D layer. But at night, when the ionosphere changes shape because of no more solar radiation on it, the D layer, that is the absorbing layer of the medium wave frequency range, is disappearing. And basically what you get is kind of a general F layer that has a special, a certain thickness. And because the D layer is not there to absorb anymore, you can now receive via Skywave AM stations from far away. So that's why in Montreal I receive stations from Boston or New York or Toronto at night very easily, because now the Skywave is actually propagating up to me. But it's not like the shortwave. You might think, well, okay, well, it's bouncing off the ionosphere. That means it's like shortwave. Why doesn't it do like shortwave and propagate to Europe easily? The thing is, on the medium wave frequency range, the Skywave bounces first of all in a low part, the lowest part of the ionosphere. So the bounce is done lower than the average shortwave signal, say at 10 megahertz. So that bounce being lower means it travels less of a distance. Also, the other thing is that the shortwave frequency range, the bounce is both on the ionosphere and on the ground, while on the medium wave frequency range, the bounce will be on the ionosphere, but will tend to be more of an absorption when it hits the ground. So it loses a lot of its power as distance go. And so these are the characteristics that doesn't help. Also, shortwave propagation is very much directional. Most stations broadcast to a target area. In medium wave, the signal is more broad. It's not it will have a pattern that we're calling, but it's not directional as you would have a shortwave signal, because we're pointing towards that area in the world. So the fact that there's less of a specific signal sent to you, also the broader signal makes it easier to lose its power with time. So but it's pretty cool, because you can hear a lot of medium wave stations, from far away. And, on good nights of propagation, you might have some stations from really, really far away, And the funny thing about that, it's interesting when you mix that with the fact that a lot of people don't understand, medium wave and radio propagation in general. The problem is that sometimes some stations are meant to be, because the stations on the medium wave band are divided. The channels, the frequency channels, are divided into different types of priority, if you want. There's what we call clear channels, which are channels that are left with very few and very we put the stations very far apart, and for this vicinity, this city has a clear channel. Like Montreal, for example, we have 940, that new station that's testing right now. That's a clear channel in Montreal. That means this is the signal that can use the maximum power allowed, which is 50 kilowatts. And it dominates, of course, most of the Northeast, because it's the only signal close to the Northeast. The next 940 kilohertz, it's much farther away, because every 940 kilohertz signal, most of the time, are clear channels in their area, so they put them really far apart so they don't interfere with each other. And if somebody is not using the full power, then they can be closer, but they will often be interfered by other stations. So, for example, here one that is very, very was very famous when I was young. We had CKVL on 850 kilohertz. And I remember, because my mom used to listen to that station a lot. And CKVL was, 850 kilohertz is a frequency where the pattern needs to change in order not to interfere with others. So, for example, CKVL had to lower its power in the evening, because it would interfere with US stations and stuff like that. The problem is those US stations would interfere with here. So I remember my mom saying, hey, I can't receive, the station very well at night, but it comes in well in the daytime. And that's because of two things. They were lowering their power. They were changing the pattern of the antenna. And also the fact that US stations would interfere because of the propagation. So yeah, Mad Radio DXer. That is why in the summer we have much less DX of the medium wave band, because the daytime is so long. And also, if you notice, at this time, okay, right now, like the sun is set now, it's setting right now here in Montreal. Let me just do a little test here. Do I have let me take a radio. Well, let's take this Sony receiver here and put it on the medium wave band. So let's check it out here. You see, I have too much interference from my my computer, but because of the very low, shallow angle of the sun, the ionosphere in the wintertime is losing its properties quite fast, because the ionosphere is not as ionized because of the angle of the sun in the wintertime in the northern hemisphere. The more north you are, the more it shows. So typically, as the sun sets, I'm starting to hear the stations from far away. But in the summertime, you often have to wait half an hour to an hour after the sun is setting before we really start to get the DX or the station coming in, because the high angle of the sun ionizes the ionosphere so much that it takes more time for it to actually transform into good propagation. One of the things also about the summer versus winter propagation that's important in the medium wave band, since it is prone to static from thunderstorms. Of course, once again, winter is always the best time to DX medium wave. And when the shortwave, that sometimes I will tell people, when shortwave is not very good one evening, why don't you tune your radio to the medium wave band? Check out what you can hear. If you tune the medium wave band regularly, I can bet you will be surprised at the types of signals and where you can listen from. It's very, very unique, and it has a little bit of the same idea behind it also. If you are using if you're listening to the medium wave band at 4 in the morning, you might have even more DX because of the lower noise across the band also. But yep, wintertime, the best time for a medium wave DX, that's for sure. Online math and physics tutor says, have you ever heard the explanation of why North and South America use 10 spacing while the rest of the world uses 9 kilohertz spacing? You know what? I've never looked into that. Exactly why did why did we have that difference? I remember reading something about it. Let's just quickly see if we can get a quick explanation. Why 9 versus 10 kilohertz spacing on medium wave? We have a quick explanation here. Let me just check here. Why is the spacing different? Here there's something that might. Okay. One explanation I got here is the Copenhagen Plan of 1948 provided for the operation of long-wave and medium-wave broadcast to 9 kilohertz in 9 kilocycles channels in Europe broadcasting area. So that's a law that happened very, very long time ago. But here, this is true, but in fact, many of the frequency allocations were changed again in 1978 following recommendations made. That's interesting. Very interesting. I don't know. So it's a long, long time ago that 9 kilohertz was apparently chosen. And why was it chosen at 10 in North America? I don't know. It's probably, that's very interesting. I don't know exactly why. That could be interesting. Why did they have that? Really interesting. I wonder. Yeah, that's for sure. Like Matt Radio DXer says. And you know, when I was when I was DXing Europe, I remember when now I have too much noise, but in the late 80s, early 90s, I heard of many European stations on medium wave. And the 9-10 kilohertz spacing was cool because you could actually know if you're listening to a European station. And basically, what happened is that you could listen in because you know that, oh, okay, I'm on 14. That signal was on 1421 kilohertz. That's not a local signal. You know, automatically you knew it was from Europe because of the spacing. So for DXing, yes, that's cool because for the DXer, it gives us a mean of listening to stations. And you know, the ones that fall really smack in the middle between two channels, well, that's cool because it's even easier for us to listen to. But I remember, I think it was 1421 kilohertz. I'm not sure. But I think it was 1421 kilohertz. Was it 1421? Something like that, or 1451. There was Norway. I remember hearing Norway, and you could distinctly hear the Norwegian accent. And I could listen to it because I remember it was only 1 kilohertz above a medium wave frequency here. But when I put my receiver in upper sideband, I could actually tune it in well enough to understand or hear the Norwegian language. And I did that for a few medium wave stations. And like you say, online metaphysics tutor says, the key to everything, shortwave, medium wave, long wave, very low frequency range, and VHF, UHF. I still get a lot of people sending me little emails saying, hey, I'm not hearing anything on my VHF or on my radio scanner. I don't think there's anything to listen to around here. And the thing is, yes, there is. Very often people don't take the time to listen. That is the biggest problem. By taking the time to listen in, basically you will be rewarded with all sorts of signals. So like, we say medium wave, that's the key. Regular listening, every evening. And, I sometimes like, when shortwave isn't that great, I like going to the medium wave band in the evening because apart from I might hear something unusual, it brings in a lot of US stations with unusual programming. So, you tune around and you notice, oh, okay, this guy's talking about that. Oh, that station, they're talking about politics. That station, they're talking about UFOs. Whatever, you can hear all sorts of programming. So sometimes you just go across and then you hear a subject they're talking about. It's like, kind of interesting. We're gonna, stay there a little bit and listen in. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool for that. So, but I got to say that yeah, that's sad. Driver Film says he's sick of China Radio International booming in everywhere, but pleasant noise level has gone up where he lives. I'm having more and more noise here. It's something that's happening in the past years. I still surprisingly can receive stuff, but my noise level is high, and I see it when I go to do my DXpeditions. You know, when I go to Perry Island where there's nothing around, boy, I could see that weak station that I get here that's in the noise all the time, that I barely can understand what they're saying. Well, at Perry Island, I can tell you, I understand what they're saying because there's no noise on the signal. It's easy to understand. And I gotta say that is something that is very, very sad and very, very difficult for our hobby in the low frequency ranges. You know, shortwave and down. The VHF and up, it's still not too bad. I've got an outdoor antenna with a VHF, UHF, and noise level isn't that bad. It's really below, I'd say below 50 megahertz, because in the 6 meter band, 50, 54, I do see a little bit of noise. But, you know, below 50 megahertz, that's where noise is. In the high frequency range, I don't have as many noise. I will have these like unique little signals here and there that are, you know, made by some electronic device, but they are very specific to frequency ranges. It's not like the lower part of shortwave where it's like a broadband noise and that's it. It's everywhere. On the VHF, UHF range, it's more like pinpointing little, you know, signals here and there that come from devices. But noise is killing the hobby. You know, one of the biggest problems probably for shortwave that will never basically make shortwave big and come back to North America and to many places around the world is noise. You know, where the signals, you know, used to be good and easy to listen to, now it's kind of difficult. You know what? A few experiments I was doing in the past week. I did a few experiments. You know, the solar flux is down, and the maximum usable frequency the evening lately, with the very, very short days of winter now. At night, shortwave is, I gotta say, crappy. Unless you got some 80 meter signals and amateur radios there. There's a little bit, you know, there's some stuff up to about 6 megahertz, the 49 meter band. But above 6 megahertz, you start losing, there's almost nothing. And I've been doing a little experiment. And I was calling it, let's simulate the real average shortwave guy that comes home with a radio, and the radio says, hey, you can listen to the world on this radio. So I took out my Texan PL380 that has the easy tuning mode, and basically I let it scan. You know, every 15 minutes, I would scan the shortwave bands and look at what it would receive if it's put right there on a little table, smack in the middle of my living room, where most people would probably listen to shortwave if they got a radio and didn't know what to do, with the telescopic antenna, and I let it scan. And I did that 4 or 5 days this week. And many times, the easy tuning mode would turn in only 2 signals, sometimes 3. Last night I did it about 10 times, and I looked at the results 10 times. And I heard, you know, at first I heard like maybe 4 or 5 signals, including WCR, with Alex Jones on 6115. That was coming in real strong yesterday. Hello there, Neil Toombs. Nice to have you here on board. And I was just looking at the results and thinking, if you are the guy that bought a shortwave radio have no idea what it is about, and tuned in and heard only one or two signals, I wouldn't be surprised that the guy the next day is going to say, this is crappy, I'm going to turn in the radio, this radio doesn't work, I don't receive the world, what is that? It's false advertisement. And if you think that, I know how to, which radios are good, so imagine the same context, but with the guy got what's available in the store that was maybe crappy, and that's even worse. Now he's not getting any signals at all. So it's something when you think about it. Very, very difficult to to ask stations to bring back shortwave, when most of us in our noisy environments that we have today don't hear that much. I'm the crazy guy that has this expensive radio with an antenna outdoors, but at the basics, shortwave radio is something for the average listener with a little portable trying to listen to the world. And noise is the biggest enemy and the biggest problem that we have right now. So, talking about amateur radio, you're going to get your license next year. Yeah, I should. I know I should. It's something I would really, really need to. I've got an email from Frank in Florida that wants me to give an update about a few things. The shows for 2017, ICOM, and a few things I have to say. Well, first of all, hello Frank in Tampa Bay. Nice to have you through the email. Hey there, Richard. Nice to have you on board. And making a good case for magnetic loop antennas. The problem is, for us, that's something. But man, we have to think about the average listener. Like PLF says, the problem is also the instruction manuals of radios lack of information about shortwave. Totally. And they often have these outdated frequency lists that stations are not using anymore. I don't know how well I would have done and how long I would have kept the hobby if, when I bought my DX100, the realistic DX100, I mean, we had an extremely good manual with that. The manual was, explaining what shortwave was about and in detail, really in detail. And that helped me understand back then it made me understand what shortwave was all about because it was really, really well explained. Yes, I did see your tweet of the 8600, roughly 2,500 pounds. That means it would be probably around $3,000, 3,000 Canadian dollars. So if I go back to Frank's question, so here, guys, a few things before we continue on to propagation of different frequency ranges. I will not be making videos of the ICOM R8600 for a simple reason, unless I buy one, because I am not allowed to say everything I want of the radio. And you know what? I don't want to have a radio and talk about a radio and have no possibility at all of saying what I think about it. What I like right now is when I buy a radio, I can say this is a crappy radio. And that's it. That's my call. I want to say that, and I want on my channel to have an honest opinion of it. and that you guys can see an honest opinion of somebody that knows how to you know, to use a radio and say that what, you know, it's good or bad. So on the channel, I want to be fair. So that's kind of difficult, if not impossible. And also there were things about the radio that they didn't want me to talk too much about, which makes me think that maybe there are flaws in that radio already that we will see when some people start buying it and testing it. I don't know. You know, I always say, if you are making a great product, why are you so scared that somebody will talk about it? Because if you are making a great product, I mean, all I'll have to say is good things about it. That's what I think. So, you know, that's not going to happen. And I don't want to have to say that's a fantastic radio when it's not. Yeah, like my Radio the Extra says, that's why I don't follow these like PewDiePie. Reviews are endorsed by sponsors, therefore nothing negative can be said. Exactly. And you know, PewDiePie had a few ones that he did that a lot of people were complaining about. I can tell you that. So, hey, Big Ben Chanton, it almost beer. 30 drink up. So, I'm still at the first beer, so, you know, not bad. So, okay, you know, I want to keep my channel with my own is good or bad, and that's it. I will have in the next few weeks a CountyCom GP5 SSB graciously given to me by CountyCom. So this is pretty cool. They're sending me a box of goodies for free that I can keep. And I just have to say that he said that, you know, he's happy to give me the radio and tune around. He says, keep in mind it's not perfect, but he doesn't have any, you know, he gives me, you know, say what you have to say about the radio. So, you know, I can't wait to get it. I think it's going to be nice. It's based on the Texan PL 360. Plus it has SSB, so I don't think it's going to be a bad radio. You know, I can't see myself saying something really negative about it. But it's going to be nice. It's going to be nice to have that. And I want to thank CountyCom for sending me these little goodies for totally free. A really nice guy, Nick at CountyCom, has sent me an email and actually told me, you know, to keep up the good work and keeping radio and shortwave alive and everything. And really nice. He was telling me how the U.S. government bought 14,000 GP5 SSB radios. 14,000. And they're sending them all across the world, apparently in boxes that are almost like electromagnetic proof, with batteries in a separate case. And as he says, almost as if the U.S. government is waiting for the end of the world or something, doomsday. So U.S. government bought 14,000. Crazy. And you know, it's interesting. Why does the U.S. government spend money for 14,000 shortwave radios if shortwave is an obsolete way of communicating? Kind of interesting, no? So I can't wait to have that. It's going to be my little Christmas gift, I guess, of the CountyCom receiver and other stuff. So I want to thank CountyCom for that. And of course, I'll be making a review of my own review of the receiver. So I read reviews. Big Bench Anton says I don't read reviews. I do read reviews of different sources. I will read reviews from different people because it does give you an interesting idea of, specifics of a radio, for example. So that ICOM would be lent to me for 30 days. I had to send it back. So no, well, actually, the PLF, the conversation between me and them is kind of over because of I just said that I'm sorry, but I want to be able to freely talk about any product. Anyways, they're not giving it; they're just sending it for 30 days. So nah, I don't. I'm not interested. And it would have been cool to play with it, but man. Well, the CountyCom GP5 has SSB, yes, Mad Radio DXer, and I'm gonna have one free to test out. He's sending me, like he said, he's sending it to me to test it out and talk about it, and it's free gift. He says you can keep it. So and he's sending me some flashlights and all sorts of little things that they're making. So I think it's really nice of them, to send me that. It's kind of cool to see that somebody is taking the time to send me little goodies. Also, that means that they think that what I do is things I do is are good. I can tell you that. So oh, that's an idea, Jerry. I haven't thought of that. So yeah, the CountyCom GP5 is the Texan PL360, but it adds single sideband, which the PL360 does not. And it's a special, they asked Texan to add the single sideband to the GP5. And so it's basically a Texan radio with SSB, but for CountyCom. And it was meant to be, for the U.S. government, which that they bought, 14,000 copies of it. Yeah, Jerry, I think that's an interesting one. Shortwave radio to buy for Christmas. Yeah, I could make some kind of a stocking stuff for Christmas. What receivers I would put in a stocking, or a little something under the tree. That's cool. Thanks for the idea. I haven't thought about it. So yeah, yeah, it's the same chipset, Mad Radio DXer. It's just they just added SSB on it. From what I've read, a unique way of tuning upper and lower sideband. So can't wait to get it. It's gonna be fun to play around. It's gonna make it's gonna be really cool to have a little radio to play around at Christmas. I think that's gonna be really, really nice. Yeah, user reviews. Yeah, user reviews are more interesting, yes, because user reviews will have, and user reviews of radios and of anything in life, typically you have, the user that's never happy, the one that's too happy, and the ones in the middle. But user reviews are interesting when you have several dozens, and if not more than 100. What's cool is you get really a good feel of what to expect. Some people expect too much. Some people buy a $50 radio and they want to have that radio to perform like a $2,000 radio. Come on, get a life. Some comments sometimes I read are like, man, you are an idiot. You don't know what a radio is. But it is interesting. And it's true that yeah. So yeah, there's the County Count GP5 is also available. I've seen it on Amazon. You can buy it off of Amazon also, I believe. But you know, like Neil Toom says, for the Icon, he bought the 8500 for £1,500, and 1,000 pound more for an 8600 is unjustifiable to me with noisy HF bands. No 1,500 pound. 1,500 pound I might have had, but not 2,500. That's one thing for sure. Depending on your setup, the noise you have, and everything, it's a lot of money. The HF bands are noisy, not as interesting as maybe in the 20 years ago. Yet I still enjoy the fact that it's a wideband radio, so it receives a lot of frequencies, including VHF, UHF. Would I buy a 8600? I can tell you. I am tempted with the 8600, but I will, of course, wait for some people to test it out before I can really say I will buy one. That's for sure. So, cool. I love it. Well, it's Richard. It's our friend. Our friend Neil Toombs that tweeted the price apparently for Europe. Yeah, Mad Radio DXer, I need to get a Walbrook. Maybe that could turn around also my shortwave listening. Maybe a Walbrook. I gotta say, this week, it doesn't happen often, but I got a kind of a shortwave down. Looking at Radio Australia leaving shortwave, and looking at how really little signals there were in the evening, I was kind of in a mood of the hell with it, with shortwave this week, which doesn't happen very often for me. And I guess it's the winter slump, where signals in the evening, there's not a lot of stuff. There's stuff, if you really take the time to tune in. But I got to say that if I could find, if a Walbrook would lower the noise enough and make the signals really better for me, I think maybe that really needs to be something I need to buy. Because right now the noise level is high and I'm getting really, really crazy. No PLF, it's not out yet, but the price apparently at 2,500 pounds. So I mean, here in Canada it's going to be like 25 to 30, maybe $3,000. Actually, not. Usually it's not that much. You bought your ICOM 8500 for 1,500 pounds. I paid mine. The regular price for the ICOM here is $2,000. So yeah, that's pretty much what I would expect. 2,500 pounds. I'd expect it to be 3,000 Canadian dollars. So maybe 2,500 American dollars. That's a lot of money for a radio. And yeah, a Walbrook. Maybe a Walbrook would bring back a little more pep in my. Well, one of the things we got to be careful is, yeah, shortwave is empty. That's for sure. Tuning around the bands and finding 6 signals instead of the usual gazillion of signals we had. One of the things that is bad is also that propagation is not very good lately, and the low maximum usable frequency makes a lot of difficulty listening to shortwave in the evening. Yet in the afternoon, I gotta say, I was working from home many days this week, and in the afternoon, there's a lot of things to listen to. I got to say that, I listen to Radio Japan, I listen to the BBC, I listen to Radio France. What did I get? I got a ton of signals this week in the daytime that I really, really enjoyed listening to. And so in the afternoon, it's great. There's tons of stuff to listen to. Turkey and all of that. And many European signals are coming in. Of course, Radio Romania and all. It's mostly in the evening. It's not super cool. But I did hear a few Asian signals also coming in quite well. And often what I do when the shortwave bands are quiet, I'll turn to the amateur radio bands and try to find some interesting DX there, listening to different countries. I enjoy that. Like a few weeks ago, I really enjoyed listening to that guy from South Africa on the 40-meter band at night. So And we have the exercise. For me, it is sad now that shortwave is so empty, but also propagation is poor. That's why, thanks to the Wellbrook, I DX at home, but also I have rediscovered medium wave and long wave, which I ignored before. So, I'm going to have to check that out. Neil Toom says, I got a Wellbrook, but I do wonder if my one is faulty as HF, very noisy. And sure, I read once that if the preamp goes faulty, they just get noisy. So, okay. Andrew the Extra says, check the connections in the preamp of the loop. Had problems with mine since owning it. So, And that is true. Online math and physics tutor says that a $100 portable today is amazing compared to what $100 would have brought 20 years ago. For sure. A $100 radio today performs like a $500 radio of the 1980s. I mean, if I look at my Texan PL 680, I just look at that little receiver, which is roughly $100 Canadian. And wow, I mean, that thing performs amazingly well. And a radio like that would have been $300-400 in 1990. You would not have had that for $100 back then. So, Ray's been hearing Europe on 80 meters the last few nights. Interesting. That's cool. Maybe I'm going to do that tonight. Try to tune a little bit of the European stuff on 80 meters. I got the high noise level, but I do hear some stations. So Ray heard a guy that was in Vienna hamming it up with a guy in the US on 80. That's nice. I've heard a few Europeans on the 80 meter band, but it's been a while. Usually it's more in the evening for me, Europe is more on the 40 meter band. So, pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. What else do we have here? Yep, Chinese building up their own space stations. Russians want their own, and US will have their separate. Yeah, everybody wants his own little thing now. I get a good discount. Yeah, I do need something interesting for the VHF UHF. It's time that I change my mobile vertical antenna. That's for sure. I did look at this. I actually I believe it's on the Shortwave group on Facebook. A few people talking about the MFJ 1886 magnetic loop antenna, and it seems to be pretty amazing for the price, $230 US. That means here it's like 300 Canadian, and plus shipping, because shipping is going to be there. So that could be something I might check it at for sure. Michael Budd, yeah. Well, I know that some MFJ. I've heard mixed things about MFJ products. It depends on the product. I think there are some good products coming out of MFJ, but I do hear that there are some junk also from MFJ. I've heard a lot of mixed results, but it probably depends on the product that you buy. Driver Film says picked up a brief signal from the International Space Station this week. By the time I got my camera, it had gone. Yeah, it moves fast and it's easy to. When I want to film something about a satellite coming by or International Space Station or anything, I do it in advance. You know, I set up the camera, I set up everything, and I wait for it to come by. And you know, I don't even wait for it to be there. I'll often start the camera, start talking about what I'm going to try to listen in on, and if the signal gets there, then I make a video. But man, it's easy to miss out on these signals. I can tell you that. Really easy. That's for sure. So really. Barcelona also. I'm going to try that. Tonight I'm going to try that. A little bit of 80-meter DXing. I really enjoy going to the dxwatch.com website and looking at the different DX, going through and trying it out. I try to get stations, you know, that received Europeans or, you know, some rare DX that are not too far from me. So it makes, you know, gives me a bigger chance of receiving such. One thing I need to do is maybe check again my, you know, I made that, there's a website, W1 something, there's a guy that makes a magnetic loop that you can build yourself for very little money. And for some reason I did it and it didn't work well. It had a lot of noise and didn't receive that well. Maybe I should check it out again, and maybe I did something wrong, but you know, it seemed that everything seemed okay, but I have to check that out. Maybe I should check it out and try it again, because it's very inexpensive to build, so you know, I can take out the parts and see if I can do something again about that. So you are watching the Wideband show where we talk about anything about radio. Now we're into antennas and expensive receivers and noise levels. And it's time to open the second beer of the evening. So here we go. Beer number 2. And as we get into VHF propagation, no, shortwave propagation, sorry, we were at, I'm going too fast. We were at the medium wave propagation, so about shortwave propagation now. And by the way, medium wave is technically up to 3 megahertz. So shortwave is technically starting at 3 megahertz and goes up to 30 megahertz. And of course, shortwave propagation, for those that listen often, depending on the frequency range, of course, the higher the frequency, the more it's a daytime thing. The lower the frequency, usually it's nighttime. And of course, each you can probably break down shortwave propagation in different little spectrums. So if we go from I don't know 3, let's break it into 3 parts: 3 to 10 megahertz, which will usually be more of a late afternoon, evening propagation, but it's very, very different from the time of year. For example, in the summertime, give you an idea, 6 megahertz, 49 meter band, and at 2 p.m. in the afternoon, which is mid-afternoon, typically you don't really hear anything except things very local, like here I'm going to hear CFRX in Toronto, but usually there's nothing there. And this week, while tuning shortwave, I noticed that at 2 p.m. in the afternoon, I hear Europeans on the 6 megahertz range. And that shows you that because of the angle of the sun, it does really change the characteristics of the propagation of the signals. But in general, you can say that, you know, 3 to 10 megahertz, roughly late afternoon, evening, nighttime. 10 to 20 megahertz, a mix of, daytime, a little bit of nighttime, and of course, once again, there are different characteristics. For example, if we take 17 megahertz 16 meter band, that's more of a daytime frequency usually. But in the summer, with very long days, you'll hear stations even in the middle of the night. I hear Radio Australia way past sunset in the summertime on 17840, for example. So shortwave, it's not fixed. It's very difficult to say, well, that frequency range is nighttime only, because depending on where you live and the time of year, it's very, very different in the propagation. And so, in the summertime, you can say that above, 15 megahertz and above is best in the daytime. In the winter time, you're going to say in the daytime, once again, 15 megahertz and above, but you can add the almost 10 to 15 megahertz also, because it will in mid-afternoon propagate more than in in mid-July. That's for sure. And there are different little characteristics also on the upper range of the shortwave band. Shortwave bands tend to have from 20 to 30 megahertz, especially on the very upper part of the shortwave bands, like 25 megahertz and up. Some unique properties like sporadic E-skip, which is very interesting because when it appears, it can actually make any 25, 28, 10 meter band can open up at 2 in the morning. And it doesn't obey the rule of, oh, it's a daytime band. Why is there some signals at 2 in the morning on 10 meters? And that's where, you cannot and never, and I always say that, never think of the rules of propagation of shortwave as fixed rules, because they are not. I was reading an old book the other day that had its characteristics of each international broadcast band. And it was saying that, for example, 41 meter band was a nighttime only band. But if you listen in at mid-afternoon in the month of December with very short days here, I have tons of European signals in mid-afternoon. So it's not a nighttime band. And the maximum usable frequency these days is so low that around 10, 11 p.m. local time, I think the maximum usable frequency barely makes it to 7 megahertz. Which technically doesn't make it a nighttime band anymore. So, nothing is fixed. It's very, very changing from one season to the other. It's very, very changing depending on some other propagation characteristics also. Like I said, 10 meter band or 25 megahertz. You might hear some signals at 3 in the morning because of sporadic E-skip, which tends to be more in the summer, but could be any time of the year. So never accept the fact that, oh, it's 10 p.m. and in the winter, and basically we're not going to hear anything on the 10 meter band. I shouldn't go tune there. It's there's nothing in the middle of the night, and then bam, you go there and you try it out, and suddenly, wow, there's sporadic E-skip and there's signals everywhere. So never hesitate to always tune around a frequency range. Even if you think nothing will be there, I can tell you someday a signal is going to be there and you'll say like, wow, I just heard something I've never heard before, because you actually tried something that, in the books sometimes will say, okay, it shouldn't. That's why, anybody that does videos that are extremely technical and say, well, the reason why that doesn't work is here's the science behind it. Well, I think most of these videos are totally false, because there's way more than that. There's so much, actually, that science doesn't apply perfectly all the time. There are times when science, and on paper it looks nice, but on the reality of using it, it's a whole other idea. And so, you know, got to be careful with these things. Oh, man. People are talking in the chat room about the ABC and Radio Australia. Radio Australia. There's a lot, you know, like Ray's saying, there's a lot of people mad at the decision of Radio Australia leaving shortwave, and especially the comments. You know, I think one of the comments that I think is just shows that the people that took these decisions don't actually understand shortwave. The fact that they say it's an outdated technology. And I don't know who, I remember reading in one of the comments that I saw, somebody saying, hey, electricity is 100 years old, so by your account, electricity is outdated, we shouldn't be using it anymore. And it's like, yeah, you know what? The biggest problem with Radio Australia is I think you've got stubborn people with decisions that don't reflect the reality. I think also there's the one thing that you guys, we need to know, to understand, is from what I've read, because I've read a lot of articles, the Australian government actually cut the budget of the Australian Broadcasting Corporation. Now let's bring that back to here in Canada. Here in Canada, when the Conservative and even the Liberals, the Liberal government back in the 90s also did that, they cut the budget of Radio Canada, of the CBC. You know what? By cutting the budget, the CBC, which is a focus on the local stuff. And remember, Radio Australia is in the same problem that Radio Canada International was. It's part of the ABC, Australian Broadcasting Corporation, which only wants to transmit local Australia stuff. So I see Radio Australia in the same situation as Radio Canada International. A government that squeezes the budget of the ABC, like our governments here, they squeeze the budget of the CBC. And the first thing that you want to remove is what is costing a lot of cash that we don't need. So you've got people at the ABC that don't really understand what Radio Australia does. Like here we had people at the CBC that didn't really like what or know what Radio Canada International was all about. And we have to add that shortwave is it is expensive to transmit on shortwave because of the high powers used and the transmitter sites to be maintained. But thing is, these people are looking at, hey, there's millions of dollars here. And we got cut by millions of dollars here. What are we going to do? We're going to cut the millions of dollars of Radio Australia, and we're going to shut that down. And it's obsolete technology anyway. Nobody listens to shortwave anymore. But there's one thing that's very, very different from the CBC and the ABC. And yet we did see here the same thing. I don't know if you remember, Ray, when the CBC, when Radio Canada decided to shut down the shortwave outlet, you know that 9625 kilohertz frequency for northern Quebec and Nunavut? That was a frequency for the CBC to transmit on shortwave towards the north areas where, I mean, populations are far apart from each other. And there was a lot of people up there that said, well, you know what? If you're cutting off the shortwave outlet of the CBC on 9625, there are going to be communities that are not going to have any info anymore. And I think one of the major issues here is how they forget that there's a lot of places where communications are difficult. And for some reason, there's this weird thinking that little FM stations scattered all around will fix that. And everybody knows that, these FM stations they have a limit of distance that you're going to hear them. And there's going to be some people in some communities that will not have a radio outlet anymore. And it's the same, Radio Australia, that's what's going to happen. The Northern Territories, served by the shortwave outlet, well, a lot of the communities in the Northern Territories there are saying, well, you know what, we're gonna lose our, link to getting news, and if there's a cyclone or something, that's going to be difficult, and we're not gonna, have news anymore. It could be dangerous. Not counting, and that's another thing. But the thing is, once again, it's a very self-centered thing. The ABC Radio Australia doesn't care about its, anything but its own boundaries. So what's happening also here is that the ABC doesn't care about giving, news to the Pacific area. It's not their service. Their service is the Australian Broadcasting Corporation. It's local stuff. Radio Australia was at its best when they were like Radio Canada International on their own little service with their own news and their own information. But imagine and I can imagine there is a lot of people throughout the Pacific area that live in conditions that are less than ideal, that don't have the internet, and that Radio Australia was part of their news of what's happening in the Pacific region. I can bet you there's a lot of people across Asia with the Asian service that relied on a lot of news and information coming out of Australia. Not counting that Radio Australia's news was, for some regions, maybe a little more fair. Let's just put, we'll put it in brackets because every country has its own little glitches in how they send out news. But there's tons of people across the Pacific region that are losing probably one of the best news sources that they had, and it's Radio Australia, and it's shutting down, and they're not thinking about this at all. And you know what? The only thing that they are thinking about, save money. And they have this funny idea that, the internet, everybody's on the internet, everybody's going to listen to on the internet. Well, no, I'm sorry, but there's more than half of the people around the world that do not have internet connection. We got to remember that. More than half don't have internet connection. And in that other half, most of them don't have a internet connection at home. A lot of them go to the library where there's a computer for 200 people, and they go there to check a little bit of things, but they're not going there to stream radio. That's another thing. It's very, very sad. Hello there, David in Barcelona. Nice to have you on board. Danny, Shortwave Radio DX. Hello there. Welcome aboard. And, I don't know. You know what? Online math and physics tutor. I don't know. He's got a good point here. Do they even bother to think how many traveling technicians it takes to maintain all those low-powered local stations? You know what? I think they're relying on the fact that they won't have to implement FM stations everywhere. They're relying on the fact that Well, we can send our satellite signal to that island in the Pacific Ocean, and that local station there will rebroadcast our news. And they'll have the care of the transmitter and everything, and it doesn't cost us a thing. It's a money decision, a lot. Richard in Atlanta says, with the shutting down of the shortwave broadcasters makes me want to go out and order an ICOM 8600. I think I will keep that. I think I will keep what I have. Yeah, you know, it's another thing. You know, I do get regularly somebody telling me, oh, you know, with less and less stations on shortwave, I don't want to spend, you know, you're talking about a high-priced radio here, but I get emails from people saying, you know, I don't want to spend $150 on a radio knowing that in 10 years it's going to be useless. And what do you want to answer to that? Useless depends on what you're listening. And to give you an idea of that is, depends on what you're listening to. You know, I know my radio, let's put a timeline. Let's say that in 2025, there are no more international broadcasters, which will not happen. In 2025, I'm sure there's going to be some shortwave broadcast left. But let's just examine the possibility. Let's say that in 2025, there would be no more shortwave broadcasters left. My radio will not be useless for a simple reason. I enjoy listening to amateur radio operators a lot. Now, I will find it sad that I can't listen to programs from different countries around the world, but yet my radio is still going to be plugged in. I'll still have an antenna, and I'll still listen in to amateur radio operators. It's still going to be used for something. Now, I have that interest of listening to amateur radio operators. But in the case of a lot of people that don't care about the chit-chat of people on amateur bands, don't care about, you know, I don't care about listening to an amateur, I don't care listening about an amateur station from, you know, a Caribbean island. I want to listen to news and music and all sorts of things around the world. Well, if that's what shortwave is for you, okay. I understand that you're talking about a radio you're going to buy that will not be used anymore. You know, you will have a radio that is good for AM and FM, and you've probably you know, spent too much money because you could have gotten a good AM FM radio for $50. I think what's going to be interesting to see is, you know, one of the things for sure is that there are some shortwave radios. Some people buy shortwave radios. Well, that's true, Rich. Like Richard in Atlanta says, I will probably keep what I have unless I become a amateur radio operator and want to trade my 8500 for a, you know, transceiver that will have both transmit and receive. But if I'm on the listener side, one thing for sure, you know, if there's like the, I don't know, an ICOM R8800 at $4,000, one of the things that's for sure is that if I listen in only to amateur radio bands, I will not invest in a new radio. That's for sure. And I got to say, you know, when I look at my own spending and my own, you know, if I had money to spend right now into things, I've noticed that in the past few years, you know, I got a real high of buying a lot of radios and, you know, doing tons of videos on all of these shortwave receivers. But a lot of them were bought when there were a little more transmissions on shortwave. And I have to say that my interest in buying new shortwave receivers is not as present as it was in the past. I find the R8600 really nice, but for some reason my envy to get some new cool radio is not as much as it was in the past. And I would maybe, buy other stuff instead. I don't know, a game console or, something different. Maybe some technology, something about technology, So basically, that's what's happening. DX the cat is here looking at me and saying, "What are you doing?" He's got these little tired eyes. He just woke up. So, nice little cat here. So, I don't know. Like Danny Shortwave Radio DX says, shortwave radio will be more of a collector's item. That's true. That will come through. Here, guys, I'm going to show you. I think the camera's a little high. Here we go. Here's DX saying hi to everyone. Hello there. So, basically, I do understand somebody that says, that we live also in areas of the world where shortwave broadcasts are not that plenty. I'm sure if we would live in some part of Southeast Asia, we would be really happy to have our shortwave radios. I'm sure we would really, really be happy because we'd be, really listening in to tons of signals. When I tune an online receiver in China, there's one in Hong Kong. You know what? If you tune every 5 kilohertz, shortwave sounds over there like shortwave sounded here in North America in the 80s. Signals everywhere. And you see that shortwave is big there. It's still really, really big. And, I think in 2025, it's still going to be quite big there too. But we are going to be left out. There will be less transmissions to Europe, less transmissions, if any, to North America. And that's going to make our part of the world more difficult. So that's for sure. So, yeah, that's true. Investing in upgrading your antennas rather than a new radio. That's a possibility. Yeah, Purikat. So, I gotta say. What I would like, what would be a good idea of shortwave? Something that I would like to see is a possibility of opening up a few shortwave bands to, say, amateur radio operators that would like to become, I don't know, radio DJs. Why don't we open up a shortwave, a few parts of the shortwave spectrum that would simply, help amateur radio operators that have that urge of having a little radio station on 24 hours a day or something. That could be cool, though. I would see that could be something interesting, and we might have something interesting coming out of that also. That would be a nice turnaround for a hobby to do something like that. So, yeah, like radio, like David says, would be good if an amateur broadcasting licensing system was designed kind of like AM radio, but one-way broadcasting of music and speech for the spectrum, like left by the professional broadcasters. Yeah, that would be nice. John Ritson says we're not going too bad though. Are we after all we want to shoot fish in a barrel, as the saying goes. After all, the chase is better than the catch. There's still some stuff to listen to, and that's for sure. And I mean, in an afternoon, in an afternoon, like I said, this week, multiple afternoons, I had some nice shortwave listening, and I had a lot of signals and a lot of things to listen to. And I got to say, it tells me that no, shortwave is not dead yet. It's different, but that could be cool. David says, imagine experimenting with transmitting audiophile quality CQAM AM stereo on shortwave at 1 kilowatt and a Yagi antenna. That would be really, really nice. I think that's something we should think about. If the amateur community wants to, we could open up 3 or 4 little bands where, these stations could be, and we would have less pirates and more kind of official broadcasting going on the bands. Through the email, we have Susan in California saying hello. Hello there, Susan. Nice to have you on board. And we've been on for 2 hours and 20 minutes, 21 minutes exactly. Going pretty fast. Driver film shortwave radio died. Shortwave radio died. What am I going to do for videos? Well, here we have today this unusual interference. Look at this weird static on 12266. I've never heard that before. Could it be the neighbor's router or my new neighbor's HD TV? That's what we're going to try to find out. I've been listening to that noise for an hour now. You know what sometimes I'm thinking about of my shortwave channel? That even if at some point it would be less useful to make videos and have that put online. What I find interesting, and I'm happy to have done, is I have more than 3,000 videos online now. And I think of that as a nice contribution of a period of time where there was a lot of stuff and shortwave existed. And basically, people that will want to know in the future what shortwave was about, well, hopefully these videos are still going to be there. So, yep, a PL380 and a stocking, that's pretty cool. And it's very, very nice. I have one here. I'm so happy. I've used it a lot this week. Really cool radio, and it's a great stocking stuffer. I can tell you that. That's a nice little inexpensive Christmas gift. I can't wait to get my GP5 SSB. I gotta say, I'm really, really can't wait for sure. That's for sure. Used to be local. John Riston says there used to be a local in his area that did the same on CB for hours on the end. It was like having a local broadcast station that accepted requests. Why not? Why not do a simplified way of having shortwave stations on the air that doesn't cost or is very low cost, and anyone that has an amateur radio license, for example, would be able to own his little shortwave station. That would be cool. Yeah, I'm not sure about the not needing special bands because of it's the international broadcast bands are still used enough that maybe that could cause interference. But maybe you're right. Yeah, driver film shortwave need that license. But or at least, you have to submit that frequency you're going to use into times, and they give you that okay, you'll be assigned that frequency, and you can broadcast your station on the regular international broadcast bands. Nothing in the nothing in the amateur bands. The amateur community is always already mad enough that there's some shared frequencies like the 41 meter band and the 40 meter band with shortwave stations and amateur stations. So they'd have to have their own shortwave stations somewhere. I think that would be nice. So that's for sure. But that'd be cool. I think that would revive shortwave a little bit. Imagine that there's these 1 or 2 kilowatt amateur broadcasters scattered around the United States and Canada, for example. That would give us many new signals to listen to. And that would, in some way, maybe kind of give a new breath of fresh air to the shortwave hobby, I would say. Why not? That could be an interesting idea. I like that. I wonder where we can submit that kind of idea. a new way that the amateur radio operators can transmit. And I'm sure some of them would have some really cool programming to listen to also. So yeah, there could be, like David says, amateurs could explore the real potential of analog AM broadcasts and audio quality. And I wouldn't count out the fact that maybe if some people had only like speech only stations, why not also have the opportunity to have broadcasters in upper sideband or lower sideband? I wouldn't say no. So yeah, I'm sure that at low power they wouldn't necessarily interfere with many stations, but John Ritson says in the UK there have been a couple of pirate radio stations in the 40 meter band and jamming stations overpowering them. Anyone know what the stations are? There's a lot of amateur radio operators that are very, very mad at the fact that there are international broadcasters on the 40 meter band and that intentionally continue to broadcast over international broadcasters. I have heard that and have seen that so many times. I can tell you that there's really a part of the amateur community that's kind of mad at the fact that it's a shared system. So you are watching the on 7200. That's the cuckoo's nest frequency, Ray. 7200 lower sideband. That's the same as the 14313 kilohertz on the 20 meter band. A gang of idiots that just do whatever they want. I can tell you that. It's really a cuckoo's nest frequency, I can tell you. So through the email we have a little hello from Matthew that is in Roswell, New Mexico, and he says he's been enjoying the show since the beginning this afternoon. His question is about shortwave signals, that he seems to really not receive a lot of signals where he is. He's using a Panasonic RFB 300. Wow. I remember that radio. My dad had one. And he says that apart from some religious broadcasters, he doesn't hear, almost never hears anything. So he's wondering if it could improve reception. Well, if you're using just the telescopic antenna on the radio, try to put up a wire antenna outside of your home if you can, and hook it up to the radio. That might improve the number of signals you'll get. and you are more on the west side of North America, so there's a little less to listen to. Signals are kind of weaker and a little more difficult at that area. But I'm going to send you a copy. I haven't seen if you have one, but I'm going to send you a copy of my little list of frequencies that I make now every month. And I'm sure that there are some in there that you can receive at your location. Maybe you're not listening at the good frequencies also for the time of day that you're trying to receive stations. So I'm going to check that back. And I'm going to send you an attachment, a copy of my list. And by the way, for those that enjoy my list, because I get a lot of positive comments of people saying, "Hey, it's so cool that you have this list." Starting in January, the list is going to have a Europe signal part. So right now, it's only signals I receive here. I started listening to shortwave through the University of Twente receiver in the Netherlands. So in the daytime, when I have time, I just take one of my computers and I leave it on the University of Twente SDR, and I tune around different signals. So every signals that I receive there, I log into my list. So starting in January, my favorite shortwave frequency list will contain European stations that you can receive, and of course they are being received in the Netherlands. So, and I know that the receiver is quite sensitive, but I think that a lot of these signals will probably make it across Europe. So you guys in Europe will also have something to enjoy in my list of international broadcasts, my favorite shortwave frequencies. And slowly we're gonna, play around with the frequencies and everything. So the list is growing more and more because there's a lot of people that actually enjoy my list. So it's pretty cool. And I'm gonna check it out. Maybe I'll be starting a separate email for the kind of a subscription to my list, so that in that email people can actually yeah, it's in PDF format, Jerry. It should open. It opens. I've tried it on different computers, even those with no Adobe Reader in it, and it opened with no problem. What you could do is install something like. Do you have Adobe Reader? Adobe Reader should open it. What are you using to open the PDF, Jerry, right now? Maybe it's what you're trying to open with that doesn't work. You can try Adobe Reader. I'm trying to remember the name of the one that's less, because Adobe Reader, what I hate, it's like a big chunk. Don't use that, Jerry. The Android PDF app is no good. I've changed for the PDFs on Android. I'm just gonna take an idea here. On Android, I use PDF. You can download the. There's actually the Adobe. There's Adobe Acrobat Reader. Install that, the Adobe Acrobat Reader, and I'm sure you're going to be able to open it. Because I remember trying to open a PDF from somebody on my Android device, and the default PDF opener didn't want to open it. So install Adobe Acrobat Reader, and you will be able to open my PDF on your Android device. It's free and it's going to work. Foxit Reader, yeah, Foxit Reader is good. Does it exist for Android? Foxit Reader. I remember using Foxit Reader. Foxit reader. Not Fixit. Yeah, Foxit reader. You can try that also. There's a Foxit PDF reader and editor. That one is also a pretty good one also. So it's that should work also. So that should work. What do we have here? Shame that as I'm also looking into an opinion until I got a Win Radio WR. It's part of a deal, but only gripe I have is the user interface is not scalable. So on my iris screen, it's tiny. Yeah. I remember using, I believe there's a PC version of Foxit, and I remember at some point on a computer that didn't have a lot of RAM, I was using a Foxit reader because it's smaller and it opens faster. So oh, that's interesting. So it will open with that. So oh, I got both. So the best of both worlds. Now you'll be able to choose which app to you can open it, but you should be able to open it now with that PDF. So starting in January, we'll have a Europe section on the frequency list. And if you guys want to, by the way, because some have been asking, if you guys want to give me frequencies that you think I should add to the list, the only thing that is important to know, because I have one guy that's now really mad at me, that he sent me like 20 frequencies to add. And he, when I sent the list, he replied back saying, "Oh, okay, so you don't care about what people send you in the frequencies." And I answered back. I said, "No, that's not the thing. The thing is, if you send me frequencies, I have to receive them here. So if you send me a frequency that you think I should have, but after 6 or 7 times that I tried it, I don't hear nothing, I'm not putting it in the list. It's not because I do not trust what you receive. I'm sure you did receive it. It's just that that list contains things that I personally heard myself. So if you send me 10 frequencies and I heard 5 of them, I'll put 5, and the other 5 will not be part of the frequency list. So that's very important to understand, because a lot of people don't understand that it's my favorite frequency list of things that I hear. So everything in that list I have heard and know that it's there. That's the only thing here. So, but people get mad too easily, I gotta say. Really, really too easily. I use the Soft 66 SDR. It's the cheap SDR, about $40, and with HD SDR. And I enjoy using that regularly. I should get myself a better quality one, though, because I find it really interesting. It doesn't... I'm the kind of guy that loves, I love the fact that, radio and computers, I love the fact that the interface and the waterfall is just so cool with the SDR. The waterfall is amazing, seeing all the signals and everything. The only thing is I'm still an old-fashioned radio guy, so I enjoy using that. I find it really, really fun to use such a receiver. Yet, I prefer using my R8500 for tuning around. But I've got the Soft 66, the RTL2. That's possible. I've heard 3933 also was a frequency, by the way, of bad guys. I don't get angry, I just get even. But I gotta say, the Soft 66 is darn amazing. Somebody that wants to listen to shortwave at low cost and have a better than average radio, the Soft 66 is amazing. The only thing of the Soft 66 is you got to tweak it well. Got a few people that came back to me and said, hey, I bought a Soft 66 after your review. It doesn't receive crap. Yeah, because that little RF gain that you have on the radio, don't push it maximum. People think, oh, I'm going to put the RF gain max. I want to have the maximal signals. No, it's overloading and doesn't work well when it's maxed out. You got to be at like 60 or 70%, and you got to tweak the settings. Once you tweak the settings into a good way, it's very surprising. The Soft 66 is quite amazing. But you got to tweak the settings. Then you got to play around because you might have a computer that sends a ton of crap of noise in it also. That's something you got to be careful. So, I don't get even, I hand them. So, hey guys, I'm gonna sign off for tonight because tomorrow we have another, we're gonna have a shortwave show tomorrow. I'm hungry. I want to eat a little bit of food, and I'm going to enjoy some radio tonight. So I just want to say thank you to everyone. We've gone into the shortwave propagation. Next show we'll talk about the VHF, UHF range, and all the weird propagation methods there. Tomorrow is a shortwave show, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 2000 hours UTC. We will talk about interesting stuff that we should take a listen to for the holiday season. Some of you are listening to Christmas music, for example. That's part of it. So there's a lot of stuff to listen to for this holiday season. And we'll see each other tomorrow. Hope everybody can join in. And we'll have fun tuning or talking about shortwave tomorrow. So take care, everybody. See all of you tomorrow if possible. Always nice to have everybody here. Thanks for the nice comments. And take care, everybody. Good night, all. And 73. See you tomorrow. 2000 hours UT. Bye.